Have you ever wondered, did Jesus really begin in Bethlehem? Most of us picture him in a manger, wrapped in swaddling clothes, with shepherds and angels looking on. But what if I told you, that's not the beginning at all? What if the story of Jesus stretches far beyond the manger, beyond time itself, before the first star ever shined in the heavens? Welcome, friends, to Real Jesus. If you're new here, I want you to stay with me, because today we're stepping into a mystery that has the power to transform the way you see Christ forever. Before there were galaxies spinning in silence, before mountains rose from the deep, before Adam took his first breath, he was there, not waiting to be born, not preparing to arrive. He already was. Jesus did not begin in Mary's womb. He did not begin in Bethlehem. He did not even begin in the first pages of Genesis. John the Apostle whispers a secret in the very first line of his gospel. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Do you hear that? Not in Bethlehem, not in the days of Caesar, but in the beginning. At the very edge of eternity past, Jesus already existed, wrapped in majesty, clothed in eternal light. The Jesus you think you know, walking the dusty roads of Galilee, healing the blind, raising the dead, that was him in humility. But before that, he reigned in glory. He spoke galaxies into existence. Planets spun because his voice commanded it. Stars burned because he lit them. The oceans stayed in their boundaries because he told them to. And yet the same voice that roared, "Let there be light," would one day cry out from a wooden cross, "It is finished." Friends, do you see it? The cradle in Bethlehem is not the starting line of Christ. It's the midpoint of a story too vast for us to measure. Before we go deeper, I want to pause and invite you. If you're feeling the weight of this truth, if you're realizing that Jesus is far more than the world ever told you, don't miss the journey. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because together we're going to uncover layer by layer the eternal Christ who has no beginning and no end. Fast forward years after the cross. The Apostle John, now exiled on a rocky island called Patmos, is suddenly swept into a vision. And what he sees is not just a preview of the future, it's a window into eternity. Eyes like flames of fire, a voice like the roar of rushing waters, his face shining brighter than the sun in all its strength. John, the same man who once leaned on Jesus' chest at the Last Supper, now falls at his feet as though dead, because the Jesus he knew in weakness now appears in unveiled glory. This is no ordinary rabbi. This is no mere prophet. This is the eternal Word, the Alpha and the Omega, the one who was and is to come. So when you think of Jesus, don't stop at Bethlehem. Don't limit him to Nazareth. Don't lock him in history as if he started when Caesar ruled Rome. The truth is far greater. He was already there before Abraham, before Moses, before Adam, before time itself. And if that's true, then the one who walks with you today is not a fragile figure of the past. He is the eternal Lord of glory, the God who holds galaxies in his hand, and yet chooses to hold you too. This is just the beginning of our journey, and in segment 2, we're going to peel back even more layers of this eternal Christ. The Jesus who chose to lay aside his throne for the sake of love. If Jesus was eternal, seated in glory before the world began, why would he ever leave it? Why would the King of Heaven trade a throne of majesty for a manger of straw? Why would the Creator, who spoke galaxies into being, step into a fragile human body that hungered, wept, and bled? Welcome back, my friends. If you've just joined us, this is Real Jesus, and we're uncovering the true Christ who cannot be contained by history. In the last segment, we saw him in eternity. Now we're going to see the greatest descent the universe has ever witnessed, when glory wrapped itself in flesh. Paul writes in Philippians 2, "Though he was in the form of God, he did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself, taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men." Think about that. The eternal Word, the one who painted the skies with stars, emptied himself, not by becoming less God, but by hiding the glory he had from before the foundation of the world. Imagine a king removing his crown, laying aside his royal robes, and slipping unnoticed into the crowd of peasants. That's what Christ did, only far greater. In Nazareth, no one saw the galaxies in his eyes. They saw a carpenter's son. They saw calloused hands that worked with wood, not the hands that shaped the cosmos. He grew tired. He thirsted. He cried. He laughed with friends. He embraced the untouchable, the leper, the sinner. And yet, beneath every smile, every tear, every footprint in the dust of Galilee, there pulsed an unshakable truth. This is the eternal God, living as one of us. Hebrews 4 tells us he was tempted in every way, just as we are, yet without sin. Do you realize what that means? The one who reigns beyond time stepped into your struggles, your temptations, your pain, so he could say with authority, I understand. And friend, before we keep going, I want you to pause and think, does this change how you see him? If it does, then stay on this journey with me. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and join our growing family here on Real Jesus, because together we're peeling back the veil to see the Christ who is both eternal, God and humble servant. But here's the breathtaking part. The humility of Jesus was not weakness. It was love in action. The creator of galaxies washing the feet of fishermen, the eternal word eating with tax collectors, the Lord of glory embracing children and touching the diseased. And in John 17, right before the cross, he whispers a prayer that pulls back the curtain again. Father, glorify me in your own presence with the glory that I had with you before the world existed. This is no metaphor. This is no poetic flourish. This is Jesus openly declaring, I was with you before creation. I shared in that eternal glory, and now I return to it. Do you feel the weight of that? The manger was never his beginning. The cross was never his defeat. The tomb was never his prison. He was and is and will always be God. And yet for love he stepped down. For you, for me, for every weary soul that feels unseen. The humility of Christ isn't just history, it's a living invitation. If the eternal God could stoop so low to meet us, then surely he can reach into your life right now, no matter how broken or forgotten you feel. In the next segment, we're going to explore an even deeper mystery. Not only was Jesus there in eternity, not only did he descend into our world, he was the very voice that spoke creation itself into being. When you look at the night sky, endless stars scattered like diamonds, do you ever wonder who placed them there? When the ocean waves crash against the shore, who told them, this far you may come, but no farther? What if I told you, the carpenter from Nazareth, the man who walked dusty roads, is the very one who designed it all? Welcome back to Real Jesus. If you've been following this journey, you already know we've seen Christ in eternity, and we've watched him step down into humility. But now we go deeper into the staggering truth that the same Jesus who washed feet is the very architect of the universe. John 1 declares it plainly. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. Let that sink in. Every star in the sky, every mountain peak, every heartbeat in your chest, through him. Creation is not random. It is personal. It is the artwork of the Word. Colossians 1:16 echoes it. For by him all things were created, in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. All things were created through him and for him. Think of it. Every galaxy was painted with his brush. Every law of physics was written by his hand. Every creature that breathes does so because of his command. The book of Proverbs gives us a poetic glimpse of this mystery. Wisdom speaks and says, I was there when he set the heavens in place. I was beside him, like a master workman, and I was daily his delight. Many scholars see this as more than poetry. They see it as a shadow of the pre-incarnate Christ, the living wisdom of God, rejoicing at creation. The same Jesus John saw in Revelation 1, eyes blazing, voice thundering, was also the wisdom who stood beside the Father, shaping the universe in perfect harmony. And if this truth stirs your soul the way it stirs mine, don't miss what's coming next. Go ahead and subscribe to Real Jesus and turn on notifications, because we're just scratching the surface. of who Christ really is. This journey is only going to get deeper. This explains why, during his time on earth, creation itself obeyed him. When he spoke, storms ceased. When he walked, water held him. When he commanded, bread multiplied, fish filled nets, and the dead rose. These weren't magic tricks. They were reminders. Creation knows its creator. Think of that moment in Mark 4 when the disciples panicked as waves crashed over their boat. Jesus simply spoke, "Peace, be still," and the sea grew silent. Their jaws dropped, and they asked, "Who is this, that even the wind and the waves obey him?" The answer, he was the same voice that told the oceans where to stop on day 3 of creation. Friend, this changes everything. Jesus is not just part of history. He is the heartbeat of reality. The galaxies spin because of him. Your very breath is borrowed from his power. And the same Christ who set the stars in motion knows your name. The carpenter is the creator. The servant is the sovereign. The man who carried a cross is the God who carried the universe into being. And here's the mystery. The one who holds the cosmos in his palm is the same one who reaches out to hold you. In segment 4, we're going to peel back another layer of his glory, exploring what John saw on Patmos when heaven opened, and the glorified Christ stepped forward in blazing majesty. What would you do if you suddenly saw Jesus? Not as the humble teacher, not as the suffering servant, but as he truly is in glory. What if your eyes were opened, and before you stood the King of eternity, eyes blazing like fire, a voice thundering like 1,000 waterfalls, his face shining brighter than the midday sun? Welcome back to Real Jesus. If you've been walking with us through this journey, you know by now Christ is eternal. He is Creator, He is Lord. But in this moment, on a lonely island called Patmos, the Apostle John saw him unveiled, and that vision still shakes the world. John was an old man now, exiled, isolated. Rome thought they had silenced him, banishing him to a rocky prison called Patmos. But what Rome meant for silence, heaven used for revelation. Suddenly John hears a voice behind him, a voice like a trumpet. He turns, and everything he thought he knew about Jesus explodes into eternity. There he is, clothed in a robe reaching down to his feet, with a golden sash across his chest. His hair, white as snow, white as wool, radiating holiness. His eyes, flames of fire piercing into the depths of the soul. His feet, glowing like bronze in a furnace, unshakable, refined, eternal. His voice, like the roar of rushing waters, commanding every realm. In his right hand he holds 7 stars. Out of his mouth comes a sharp, double-edged sword. And his face, like the sun, shining in all its brilliance. This isn't symbolic fluff. This isn't poetic exaggeration. John is seeing reality unveiled. He is seeing Jesus as he truly is. The Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the eternal King. And friend, if this vision grips your heart the way it gripped mine, don't walk away from it. Hit subscribe to Real Jesus and keep journeying with us as we uncover the majesty and mystery of Christ. Because this isn't just knowledge, this is an invitation to know the King himself. Do you know how John responds? This same John, who once leaned against Jesus' chest at the Last Supper, collapses. He falls at his feet like a dead man, because now he's not seeing the Rabbi of Galilee. He's not seeing the friend who calmed storms. He's seeing the Lord of eternity unveiled in glory, and it undoes him. But here's the part that stops me cold every time. This blazing, terrifying, overwhelming Christ reaches down, places his hand on John and says, "Do not be afraid. I am the first and the last. I am the living one. I was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. And I hold the keys of death and Hades." Can you feel the power of that? The glory John saw wasn't just a future preview. It was a revelation of who Jesus has always been. The servant who once washed feet now stands as the sovereign King with fire in his eyes. The one who hung on a cross now holds the keys of life and death. And yet, with all that authority, he leans down to comfort a trembling disciple. That is the paradox of Christ: infinite power, infinite love. Friend, this vision wasn't just for John. It was for the church under Roman persecution, and it's for you today. A reminder that no matter how dark the world feels, the King is still on the throne. In segment 5, we're going to step even deeper into this mystery, exploring what it means that Jesus is not just above the angels or prophets, but that he alone radiates the very glory of God. Have you ever stopped to wonder, is Jesus just one of many messengers from God? Was he simply another prophet like Moses or Elijah? Or maybe a heavenly being like one of the angels? The truth is more shocking than most realize. Jesus is not in their category at all. He is not a reflection of glory. He is glory itself. Welcome back to Real Jesus. If you've been following this journey, you know we've seen Christ eternal, Creator humble and glorified, but now we'll see him exalted above every power, every voice, every being in heaven or on earth. The writer of Hebrews opens his letter with a thunderclap. The Son is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his nature, sustaining all things by his powerful word. Do you see it? Angels reflect God's light, but Jesus is the light. Prophets spoke God's word, but Jesus is the word. Kings ruled by God's authority, but Jesus is the King of kings. There has never been and never will be anyone in his category. Hebrews 1:5 asks, to which of the angels did God ever say, "You are my son. Today I have begotten you"? The answer, none. No angel was ever enthroned. No angel was ever worshipped by heaven's host. But when the Son entered the world, God declared, "Let all God's angels worship him." Think about that scene. The blazing seraphim, the mighty cherubim, the armies of heaven, all bow before him. Jesus is not one voice among many. He is the voice that commands them all. And if this truth shakes your perspective like it does mine, don't let it stop here. Hit subscribe to Real Jesus right now and keep walking with us. Because what we're uncovering isn't just theology, it's the living reality of the King who reigns over everything. This is why when Jesus spoke, the world trembled. When he forgave sins, it wasn't symbolic. It was divine authority speaking. When he stilled the storm, it wasn't a miracle borrowed from heaven. It was creation obeying its creator. Even the demons knew it. They cried out, "What have you to do with us, Jesus, Son of the Most High God?" They knew they were in the presence of one whose authority stretched beyond time and space. Friend, here's what this means. The one John saw blazing in glory is not one of many. He is the only one, higher than angels, greater than prophets, beyond kings, the radiance of God himself. And if he is that, if he truly is the exact image of the Father, the Alpha and the Omega, then he is not just worthy of admiration, he is worthy of surrender. The question is not whether Jesus is supreme. The question is, will you bow now or will you bow later? Because every knee will bow, every tongue will confess. The difference is whether you choose him now in love or face him later in judgment. In segment 6, we're going to bring this journey to its final moment, exploring what it means that Jesus holds the keys of death and eternity, and why this truth is not just cosmic, but deeply personal for your life today. What if I told you there is only one who holds the keys to your life, your death and your eternity? Not a politician, not a pastor, not even the angels, only one, and his name is Jesus. Welcome back to Real Jesus. We've journeyed together through eternity past, through creation, through the incarnation, through the glory of revelation. And now we arrive at the moment that changes everything. Jesus, the Lord of life and death. In Revelation 1, John falls at the feet of Christ as though dead. And then, the moment that silences fear forever. Jesus places his hand on John and says, "Do not be afraid. I'm the first and the last. I'm the living one. I was dead, and behold, I'm alive forevermore. And I hold the keys of death and Hades." Do you feel the weight of that? Every grave, every final breath, every fear of the unknown, Jesus holds the keys. This is the climax of the gospel. Death thought it had the final word when the stone rolled across the tomb. But 3 days later, the earth shook, the stone rolled back, and the risen Christ stepped into history declaring, "I'm alive forevermore." The curse broken, the grave defeated, hell plundered. No angel ever did this. No prophet ever claimed this. Only Jesus. And if this truth moves your heart, that death itself bows before Christ, I invite you right now to subscribe to Real Jesus, because here we keep unveiling the eternal, unstoppable glory of the Son of God. You don't want to miss what comes next. But here's the beauty. This isn't just cosmic. It's personal. The same hand that touched John and said, "Do not be afraid," is reaching for you. If Jesus holds the keys of death, then he also holds the keys of your future. If he conquered the grave, then he can conquer the despair you feel today. If he reigns forevermore, then he can reign in your life right now. Friend, the story we've walked through isn't ancient history. It's living reality. Jesus Christ, the Eternal One, the Word made flesh, the Creator, the glorified Lord, the one above angels and prophets, is alive forevermore, and he invites you to walk with him. You don't have to fear death. You don't have to fear the unknown, because the keys are in his hands, and those who belong to him are safe forever. So here's my question for you. If Jesus truly is who he says he is, what will you do with him? Will you let him remain an idea, or will you surrender and let him be your Lord? Before we close, I want to take a moment to say thank you to every single one of you who has subscribed to Real Jesus. You're not just building a channel, you're building a community of people hungry to know the truth about Christ. Your support, your comments, your shares, they mean more than you realize. Together, we're reaching hearts all around the world with the eternal message of Jesus. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. You're the reason this message keeps going forward. And I'd love to hear from you. What kind of biblical videos would you like to see more of here on Real Jesus? Do you want more deep dives into prophecy? More explorations of Jesus' life and teachings? More cinematic journeys through the hidden mysteries of Scripture? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them, and they help shape what we create next. Until then, remember this: the Living One holds the keys. Walk with him, trust him, and let your life shine with his glory. This is Real Jesus. Thank you for watching. God bless you.